Good morning and welcome to Saturday, February 18th, 2023. This is Just Parlays with Chris King on the Winners and Winers Network. I, of course, am Chris King, your host and prognosticator to the stars. No, not really, but hopefully everybody's having a good day. Glad to be here. Hopefully you had a profitable Friday in your bets. It was, even though it's NBA All-Star Weekend, so there's no NBA action to talk about. Unless you wanted to bet on the Rising Stars game or the Celebrity Challenge, which I'm sure literally dozens of people did yesterday. Of course, there was hockey last night. We saw the Islanders steal a game from the Penguins where they were badly outplayed for the majority of it. But Ilya Sorokin kept them in it despite struggling early. We saw fisticuffs in the Kings-Ducks game where Kings goaltender Phoenix Copley was ejected. That was interesting, of course. We saw a high-scoring game with the Rangers and Oilers where Edmonton was up 4-1 after the opening period of play. And still went on to lose 5-4 in a shootout because the Oilers unable to maintain a lead late in a contest. I guess that's not surprising lately with what we've seen with the Oilers, who have just been inconsistent at best despite having a very good offense. Their goaltending continues to be suspect. We actually saw a trade in the NHL yesterday too, a 3-team deal between the Blues, the Leafs, and the Wild. Toronto getting Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari in a trade. St. Louis gets Mikhail Abramov, Adam Gaudette, a first-round pick, and a third-round pick this season, along with a second-round pick in 2024. The Wild traded Josh Pillar to Toronto and get the fourth-round pick from the Leafs. The good part about this trade, if you're Toronto, other than getting a former Conn Smythe winner and everything in O'Reilly, is you're only paying 25% of O'Reilly's salary for the rest of the year because St. Louis retained half of it. Minnesota picked up another 25%. Devontae says that LeBron's the GOAT of parlay killers. This is true. Half the time you don't know if he's going to play or not. And then, when he does play, you don't know if he's going to go 3 for 17 or put up 60 points. Jeffrey Mayer saying Kent State and the Rangers team total treated him right yesterday. Yeah, Kent State really was putting the boots to who'd they play yesterday? I had Kent State on my sheet as well, even getting 17 points because let's face it, there's some bad teams out there. Eastern Michigan is one of them. So there was that. Tough part for me yesterday was I had a 4-teamer get derailed by Niagara. Niagara lost by 4 to Mount St. Mary's. Third one this week that's gone off the rails by just a couple of points. Earlier this week, Georgia I had them favored by 3. They won by 2, and then the same with Boise State. They struggled to stop Colorado State and won by 2 when they were favored by 3. So a couple of rough ones there. Cornell beat Dartmouth 95-83 in overtime. They just got over the line because they were favored by, I think it was 10. They outscored Dartmouth 15-3 in overtime. So, I mean, that was a plus. But it should be a good one. Jeffrey, so good luck for you. Good morning, John. Good to see you. I hope things are well where you are as we roll into this, second or third to last week of regular season college basketball because conference tournaments started some of these tournaments. As we get there in the next couple weeks, March Madness, just about a month away. I know everybody's looking forward to that. unless you're some of these teams that are still firmly on the bubble and trying to figure out, are they going to make the field? And there's plenty of those as we wind down the stretch. A lot of teams needing to pick up the pace. And what's the deal with ranked teams losing? I mean, look, Purdue's lost a couple in a row. Alabama lost the other night. Who wants to be number one? And if you get there, can you stay there? Morning, Cap. Hope things are good out there on the water. Hopefully, the weather's conducive. I know that, Texas and everything had some frigid weather a couple of weeks ago. But hopefully things are good all around. So what do we got to talk about today? Well, we got 372 college basketball games. I know everybody's looking forward to that. We got a bunch of NHL games. And, of course, there's no NFL, but there is the return of the XFL. That's right. The XFL makes its 2023 debut this week with matchups today between the Vegas Vipers and the Arlington. Oh, who the hell is Arlington? It's hard to keep track of everybody because I've been looking through everything going on lately. And then you've got Orlando and Houston. A lot of good coaches around the league. The Arlington Renegades and the Vegas Vipers. That's right. And then the late game, or later game, today is the Orlando Guardians taking on the Houston Roughnecks. Tomorrow you'll see the St. Louis Battlehawks take on the San Antonio Brahmas. And Rocky Foray's favorite XFL team, the Seattle Sea Dragons, will take on the DC Defenders. So, I don't know. Are you guys going to watch the XFL? Are you not going to watch the XFL? Are you going to wait and see if they can survive a couple of weeks? Because, they were bouncing around in 2020 before COVID hit, and then they had to suspend the season. Then they were bought by, of course, Dwayne Johnson and his wife, along with a venture capital firm. Is anyone excited about the XFL? I mean, it'll get you through football till April or so, and then you'll have the USFL. And then by the time the USFL is over, then the CFL will be back. And then before you know it, it'll be training camp and preseason, and we'll be ready for another NFL season. So I guess on the plus side, there is football. The question is, how interested are people about the XFL at this point? Like I said, you got some name talent in the league. It's scattered around. Vic Beasley's playing in the XFL. Josh Gordon's in the XFL. AJ McCarron. So you've got some guys that you've seen play on Sundays. Whether they're any good or not at this point, we'll have to wait and see. But personally, I'm going to check it out. We'll see. We'll see how the quality of play is. I watched a lot of the USFL last year, and as George Costanza once said on Seinfeld, when Russell, the NNPC executive, said, "Well, then why am I watching it?" Because it's on TV, and it is. It's on TV. And that's all you need to know about that. But yeah, like we said, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 13 NHL games today. So a packed slate. Got a couple games in the afternoon. You got Florida, Nashville. You got Colorado and St. Louis at 2 p.m. Eastern. Then you've got the Islanders and the Boston Bruins at 5. The Devils and Penguins at 5:30. Columbus at Dallas at 6 p.m. Of course, the Montreal-Toronto rivalry gets another chapter tonight. That game starting at 7. Washington, Carolina at 8. That game is on ABC. Weird to see a national televised hockey game, but it's the Stadium Series game. That'll be at Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh, home of NC State's football team. Then you got a slew of late games on the slate. You got the Rangers and the Flames. You got the Flyers and the Canucks. Talking about two teams that can't keep the puck out of their own net. The Coyotes and the Kings. The Sabres and the Sharks. The Red Wings and the Kraken at 10:30. And the Lightning and Golden Knights wrapping it up as one of the 4 10:30 p.m. starts. So plenty of action on the ice. Like I said, roughly 737 college hoops games. Let's see what our marquee matchups for the day are. Of course, you've got the rematch between Tennessee and Kentucky. That game coming to you from the Rupp Arena. We've got Notre Dame's going to play Virginia. I don't consider that a marquee matchup. Illinois is going to face number 14 Indiana. That game was more compelling before it was announced that Terrence Shannon had suffered a concussion and won't play for the Fighting Illini today. That shifted the line fairly quickly. You've got, in a battle of ranked teams, you've got number 19 Iowa State taking on number 12 Kansas State. That's at the Bramlage Coliseum in Manhattan. And, of course, the heavyweight game, number 9 Baylor taking on number 5 Kansas at the Allen Fieldhouse. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Just looking down to see if we have any other battles of ranked teams. And the answer is no. The schedule caps out tonight with the ever-popular blowout special of Cal taking on number 4 UCLA at the Pauley Pavilion. Cal has not been a good basketball team this season, in case you were wondering. The Golden Bears come in 3-23, losers of 10 straight. They were just pounded by USC 97-60 on Thursday night, and now have to face the number 4 team in the country. Not a good day for Mark Fox and the Golden Bears, who, if you look at this losing streak, they lost by 15. They lost by 3 in overtime to Washington. Lost by 29 to Oregon, 20 to Oregon State, another team that's going nowhere. 29 at Stanford, by 13 at Colorado, by 15 at Utah, by 23 at home to Arizona. They lost by 8 to Arizona State in overtime at home last week. And then, of course, the 37-point loss to USC. Doesn't look a whole lot more promising down the stretch. They play UCLA today. They play home against Washington on Thursday. Next Saturday, they play home against Washington State. Then they close with road games at the Oregon schools 2 weeks from now. And you have to think, will Cal win another game, or will they be staring 3-28 in the face when they get to the Pac-12 tournament? Will I be posting this parlay anywhere else? No. The ones that I do on the show are the ones on the show. There's premiums that we do have on the experts.winnersandwhiners.com site. Speaking of, if you use the promo code that I'm going to put up now, there it is, you can save 60% on any of the premium packages. Enter the promo code there below, and you'll save 60% on any packages that are out there. Did I profit on the Super Bowl? On the props, yes. On the game, no, because I thought Philadelphia would win. And I thought the game was going to stay under the total. But all 5 of the props that I had on the Super Bowl show with Steen and Reichel and Rocky and Dave Delano and Mason and Loud, Pacheco over 69.5 combined yards. Mahomes' first run be over 3.5 yards. What else did I have? I had Hurts on an anytime touchdown. I didn't get to put that one in on the show because we were all doing 3. But yeah, all 5 of the props that we had panned out, so that was a plus. The game result, not as much, but what can you do? Philadelphia kind of collapsed defensively in the second half. And let's face it, that's what happens sometimes. Hofstra, Towson, Murray State, and Maryland Eastern Shore. Let's see, Howard. I'm sorry, yeah. Hofstra, yeah, great basketball team. The Pride playing some really good basketball this season. Battling with Charleston for the top spot in the CAA. Coming in with 9 straight wins. They're going to take on Stony Brook. Stony Brook, has been disappointing. The line's 12.5. If you look at the first meeting, Hofstra won by 21 at home 2 weeks ago, 79-58. Stony Brook's. I backed them against Monmouth a couple weeks ago, and they completely crapped out. Then, of course, they beat North Carolina A&T. Then they lost to Delaware. They're coming off an overtime win against William and Mary. But let's face it, Stony Brook can't shoot the ball. They're 3/13 in effective field goal percentage. They don't force turnovers. They don't hit the offensive glass. They don't shoot well. And they rely a lot on the three. More than 45% of their field goal attempts come from beyond the arc. That's the 16th highest rate in the nation, which is all well and good if you make them. But Stony Brook 289th in the country in three-point shooting. Hofstra, a very good team, 18th in effective field goal percentage. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They're 31st in effective field goal percentage defense, 52nd against defending the 3, 44th against defending the 2. They're efficient offensively. They just dropped Hampton by 30. And you look during this 9-game win streak, only 2 of those games have come by single digits. That was a 4-point win at Charleston, which we just said has been a very good basketball team. The Cougars come in 26-3. Their only other loss, they had lost to Hofstra, like we said, they lost to Drexel by 1 on the road, and they lost to North Carolina way back in the second game of the season. Along the way, they routed Davidson, they beat Virginia Tech, they beat Kent State, and they've taken care of business in conference play other than those 2 blips. So Hofstra's a good basketball team. They should cover the line. I see them winning by about 15 in that one. Towson taking on, let's see, everybody's favorite team. That's right, North Carolina A&T. Pat Scary's done a good job with Towson this year. You look, and North Carolina A&T, they should be better than what they are. They're 12-16. They're coming off a 14-point loss to Monmouth, which is never a kind of defeat you want to have on your schedule because Monmouth has been terrible. The Hawks are 6-22. I don't have a ton of faith in North Carolina A&T at this point. Even playing, especially playing on the road. The first meeting, Towson won by 12 as the visiting team. Now they're at home. Let me just see what I've got here on Towson. 9-2 at home. North Carolina A&T 4-9 on the road. They're only 5-8 ATS. Line's actually come down a little bit. It's 11.5 now. 11.5 is better than the 12.5 that it was. I think Towson probably wins in that 15-point range too. Murray State. What can you say about Murray State? They're definitely not the team they were the last few years. The one good part is they're playing Evansville. And if there's a team that's horrible in the Missouri Valley, it's the Purple Aces. 5-23. They just got whipped by 32 by Belmont. Their one win since New Year's, they beat Northern Iowa a couple weeks ago. They still don't shoot. They don't play good offense. They turn the ball over. They don't rebound. They're horrible at the free throw line. Other than that, they're great. Murray State, it's been an adjustment for Steve Prohm. They're 14-13. They just slipped by Illinois State Wednesday by a single point to get to 9-8 in the conference. The fun part is they get Evansville, then they get Missouri State, then they get Valpo to close the regular season. They don't turn the ball over a lot, but they don't shoot particularly well. And they don't force turnovers. Murray State should win the game because, like I said, Evansville sucks. They won the first one by 17. 12 is probably pushing it. Just because of the fact that you don't know what to expect from Murray State defensively. They have been suspect in that front. I'd probably stay away from it just because Murray State could put up a dud and just get buried. Or, well, not get buried, but let Evansville hang around. And that's always a scary concept. And Maryland Eastern Shore. It's a team nobody ever talks about. 14-10 on the year. They're coming off back-to-back losses to Norfolk State and Howard. Coming on the heels of a 7-game win streak. They face South Carolina State, a team they beat by 6 on the road back in January. South Carolina State, don't look now. They were 3-20, but they've won 2 in a row. They beat Coppin State. They beat Morgan State, both by double figures. The problem for the Bulldogs and Eric Martin is both those games came at home. This one, not at home. And you have to wonder how bad South Carolina State is going to look because they're in their 1-17 as the visiting team this year. They are 8-10 against the spread, so there's that. Maryland Eastern Shore 9-1 at home. Only 6 of those 10 games have had a number, though. They're 4-1-1 against the number as the home team. They are coming off a home loss. In their last home game, they lost to Norfolk State by 3 and pushed the number in that one. But let's face it, South Carolina State, they like to run. That's the fun part. They're 19th in tempo. They're 362nd in effective field goal percentage defense. They're 360th in three-point defense. They're 361st in two-point defense. In case you're scoring at home, kids, there's 363 teams in Division I. When you're second worst in effective field goal percentage defense, fourth worst in three-point defense, third worst in two-point defense, and you're still in the bottom 20 in offensive rebounding percentage allowed, 348th, and free throw attempts per field goal attempt, 357th, you got some problems. And you're just looking here quickly through the numbers. South Carolina State has held opponents under 70 points 3 times. They held East Carolina to 68 in a win back in November. They held Samford to 61 in December. And they held a non-Division I team in St. Andrews something. I don't know, St. Andrews Presbyterian, St. Andrews, whatever. They held them to 58. But still, that's it. And you're looking, they've given up at least 80 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18. They've given up 80 points at least 18 times this season out of 25 games. That includes 85 to Coppin State in the first meeting back on January 7th. Coppin State giving 7.5. I think they get there. I think they win by 10. I also like the over. It's at 147.5. They had 158 in that first meeting. And you're looking in South Carolina State, totals this season 157, 141, 167, 169. I mean, they've put up some hefty numbers. The over 15-9 in their games this season with a posted total. And I'm sure the game against St. Andrews there went over as well if there was a number. So plenty to talk about there. And with that, we will move on to the 3 for the money right after we take care of some housekeeping and word from your local station. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell, so that way you know when we're on and you're notified every time there's new content. Of course, we're on at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 Central, 6 Pacific. Check your local listings for details. And like I said, there's always premium picks available. You can get picks from me, Mason, Dave, Steen, a whole bunch of other guys that I don't remember everybody's name because we've added so many guys lately. But if you don't want parlays, I've got single game plays as well. Like I said, use the promo code at the bottom of the screen, save 60%. We've been on a roll on the ice lately. 14-4 in our last 18 picks on the ice. I think I've got 3 games for hockey on my premium slate tonight, along with some college basketball and all that other good stuff. So don't miss it. Go ahead, save yourself 60%. Never hurts to save money. Got to save money to make money, right? And with that said, we will go to 3 for the money. We're going to start with Seattle Kraken over the Red Wings. I know this line has been moving since last night when I did it. Josh, you get those by going to experts.winnersandwhiners.com, and it'll have listings of all the experts, and you click on them and pick a package out and go through the checkout process. And then after that, all there are the picks for however long you do it, whether it's 1 day or a week or a month, or some people do it for a year or whatever. They get emailed to you each day. I don't email them. They get emailed through the system. So yeah, with the picks here, like I said, you're talking about this line has moved. It was 156 last night. I see it's up to like 170-ish, 178, whatever. The Kraken at home looks like they're going to start Philippe Grubauer against Ville Husso. The Kraken bounced back from a rough skid where they were one. Let's see, they had lost. Yeah, they were 1-2-1 in their previous. Well, 1-3-1 in their previous 5. Coming out of the break, they were blanked by the Islanders. They lost to New Jersey. They were doubled up by the Rangers. They beat Philadelphia. Then they lost in a shootout on Tuesday to Winnipeg, but then bounced back Thursday with a emphatic blowout of the Flyers to sweep the season series, all 2 games of it. They faced a Detroit team that's actually won 5 straight. They beat Calgary 2-1. They beat Vancouver 5-2. Then they beat Vancouver on the road 6-1. They came back and beat Edmonton 5-4 in a shootout. And then they beat Calgary 5-2. So 5 straight wins for the Red Wings, but all good things have to end. You know, they won 2 straight as a plus 200 or greater underdog. They're on the road here. This is their 3rd game in 4 nights, their 4th game in 6 nights, and their 4th different city. Takes a lot of toll in the National Hockey League on guys. And I just think that Seattle is the better team, especially with battling for the top spot in the crowded Pacific Division race. And let's face it, it's a crowded race to say the least, because you're looking at the standings there, and everybody's kind of clustered in there. Because you take a look, and Vegas has 70. The Kings have 69. The Kraken have 68 points. Edmonton has 67. So you've got the top four teams separated by just 3 points. They've all played either 55 or 56 games. Calgary's lurking back there at 61. And then the bottom three teams you could just write off because Vancouver, San Jose, and Anaheim. They're all in the 40s and not likely to make the postseason. But Seattle wants to win to keep pace here. Detroit, even though they've won 5 straight, you look at the standings, they're at 60 points. They're 2 points behind Florida for 4th. But when it comes to a guaranteed playoff spot, they're still 13 points behind Tampa Bay. Detroit, they're hanging around in the wild card race. They're 3 points behind the Islanders, but they do have 4 games in hand. New York has played 58 games. They'll play their 59th today. The Red Wings have played just 54. They'll play their 55th this evening. But, I mean, Detroit's still a -5 in goal differential despite this win streak. Seattle plus 21 in that category. And they've played better at home of late as well. I just like the Kraken to emerge victorious in that one. Tennessee over Kentucky. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Speaking of cold, that's what Tennessee was from the field in the first meeting when they put up a whopping 56 points back on January 14th at the Thompson Bowling Arena. We saw Tennessee lose 3 of 4. With their lone win in that 4-game stretch at the beginning of February, a 3-point win in a rock fight against Auburn where the final was 46-43. They lost at the buzzer to Vanderbilt. They lost at the buzzer to Missouri last week, but they bounced back with a vengeance and beat Alabama, the number 1 team in the country, Wednesday night. I get that the line is narrow. We saw this last week when we talked about Kansas, Oklahoma, the line being narrow, and Kansas went out and just beat the crap out of the Sooners. Outside of Oscar Tshiebwe, who else are you intimidated by in Kentucky's lineup? Are you worried about Jacob Toppin? Are you worried about Kaysen Wallace? Are you worried about Antonio Reeves? I mean, I'm not. You look at the way these guys shoot, and nobody intimidates you. Wheeler is a good point guard, but he's not really a perimeter shooter. He doesn't shoot the ball well at all. He's shooting 43% from 2, and he's only taken 41 3-point attempts in 26 games. So, I mean, like I said, outside of Tshiebwe, who else are you worried about? And you're looking at Tennessee. You know, I get that Kentucky is great on the glass. They're first in offensive rebounding percentage. Tennessee is 4th. And the big difference between these teams comes on the defensive end of the floor. Kentucky, sure, they're 118th in effective field goal percentage defense. They're 101st in defensive efficiency. Tennessee is 1st in both of those categories, and they force turnovers, and they're 1st defending the 3, and they're 6th in 2-point defense. I think it's going to be tough for Kentucky to build or to do what they did in the first meeting, and I just don't see them being able to pull that off. You look back at that first meeting, like I said, at the Thompson Bowling Arena a month ago, the difference in the game was free throws. Kentucky hit 22 of 25. Tennessee was 7 of 10. Kentucky won the rebounding battle badly in that one. I don't think we're going to see that happen in this one. I think you're going to see a different Tennessee team than what we saw in that first meeting. I think that they're going to bounce back with a vengeance after that disappointing showing. And I'll take Tennessee and give the 1.5. Then App State over Old Dominion. I know everybody's like, why the hell are we talking about App State and Old Dominion? We're talking about two mediocre teams from a mediocre conference. Well, sometimes that's where the lines are the fuzziest. App State won the first meeting by 14 on the road at Old Dominion on January 21st. They're coming off a win over Texas State. Old Dominion, I got a lot of respect for Jeff Jones. He's done quite a lot in his career, going back to Virginia in the 90s. He spent time at American, had a good run there with the Eagles. And he's done a good job with Old Dominion, but, he's 16-11. The problem with the Monarchs, they can't shoot. They just lost to James Madison by 9. That snapped a 3-game win streak for them. They had won 3 straight, 5 of 6. But they aren't winning big, and they aren't sooner or later those close games start to go the other way. They beat South Alabama by 2. They beat Coastal by 1. They beat Georgia Southern by 6. They beat Georgia State by 3. They beat Texas State by 2. You look at some of their other games. They beat Norfolk State by 6. They beat Gardner Webb by 1. They beat George Mason by 1. They beat Louisiana by 4. They beat Georgia Southern by 6 in overtime. They beat Furman by 5. They've had one win since mid-November, or since late November. Okay, let me correct myself. They've had 2 wins since late November that have come by more than 6 points. They beat East Carolina by 21 on November 26th. They beat William and Mary by 10 on December 7th. Everything else, close games. You can't sustain that kind of play for an extended period. We see it all the time. And the numbers are going to go the other way for Old Dominion today. You've got to go with App State heading into the final couple games of the Sun Belt regular season. Hard to believe that we're nearing the end of the regular season for college basketball already. Seems like it was just yesterday when the season started. In a quick 3 months. That takes us to 4 for the show. Yeah, let's talk about some other teams that nobody ever talks about because they're like, who the hell are these teams? Let's talk about Sam Houston State. The Bearcats quietly 19-6. They're 9-4 in the WAC. They own wins over Oklahoma. They beat Utah. They beat New Mexico State. I don't know if anybody really cares about that, especially now New Mexico State doesn't have a basketball team for the rest of the year. You take a look at their losses. They lost to Oklahoma State. They lost to Nevada. And then in conference play, they've lost to Utah Valley. They lost in overtime to Grand Canyon, Southern Utah, and UT Arlington. They just avenged that loss on UT Arlington by beating the Mavericks at home by 10 on Wednesday. Tarleton State, Billy Gillespie doing a good job trying to resurrect his career. He's 14-13 on the year. Lost to Stephen F. Austin the other night. Going to have a tough battle here against Sam Houston State. The Bearcats beat them by 7 in the first meeting last month. Tarleton State's one good thing you can say about them offensively, they get to the free throw line. They've got the highest rate of getting to the line as far as free throw attempts per field goal attempt in the country at 0.475 free throws per field goal attempt. Problem is they're 283rd in shooting free throws at 68.5%. It's great to get to the line, but nobody wants to see Chris Dudley or Shaq at the line late in the game when you're trying to protect a lead. Sam Houston State, by the way, shooting almost 40% from 3 on the season. I think the Bearcats will hit enough threes to come up with a win in that one. The Bruins over the Islanders, which I just realized I spelled wrong. That's what I get for typing it at 11 o'clock at night or whatever it was. The Islanders played last night. You're probably going to see Varlamov in net instead of Sorokin. The Bruins, what can you say about the Bruins other than they're very good? 22-2-3 on home ice. The Islanders 11-13-4 on the road. Boston boasting that plus 86 goal differential on the season. The Islanders plus 7. It's tough to beat Boston, especially in Boston. The Bruins are pretty much a complete team. There's not a lot of flaws in their system. I don't see an Islanders team that's tired after playing last night and having to work to get out of there with a win, coming up with one today. Brian saying the Sabres is best bet on the money line. I agree. I've watched this line shift as well. Last night, Buffalo was plus 104. Now you look at Buffalo is, I think, minus 120. Yeah, between minus 120 and minus 125. I was surprised they were getting plus money to begin with. Buffalo second in the league in goals per game behind Boston. San Jose 23rd in that category. They're also 29th in keeping the puck out of their own net. They don't know if Reimer is going to play. Just going to check and see if there's any new updates on that. And in case you don't know, you can always. What I always do is I like to check goalie post because it usually gives updates on who's probable to start in the net around the league. They're showing Aiden Hill. Oh no, sorry, that's the Vegas game. They're showing Kakinen as the likely starter for San Jose against Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen for the Sabres. Let's face it, Buffalo has played. They played decently at times. You know, they had lost 3 straight before whipping up on the Ducks the other night, 7-3. They got beat by the Kings. They lost to the Flames. But, you know, this is a San Jose team that's going nowhere. You're still wondering, are they going to trade Timo Meier before the deadline? And you're sitting here and you're looking at Buffalo enters the day 5 points back of the Islanders. They've got 5 games in hand on New York. They've only played 53 coming into the day. They're actually better on the road than they are at home. They're 16-8-2 as the road team this season. San Jose, like I said, 3rd worst team in the West, 2nd worst in the Pacific. They're 5-13-7 on home ice. They've given up 209 goals this season. The only team worse than them, the Anaheim Ducks, who have given up 236. Buffalo just hung 7 on Anaheim the other night. You have to think that Buffalo take care of the Sharks. Brody, all I'm going to say about that game is if you don't throw flags in the first 58 minutes, you shouldn't throw them in the last 2. The Chiefs won, sure. That's all well and good. I'll be interested to see how things adjust now that the enemy took the offensive coordinator job in Washington. We'll see how that adjusts going forward. Because, you know, you have to think he took that job. It's not a lateral move. You have to think that Ron Rivera is probably not going to survive if the team struggles early. And that's why he took the job, because it's an easier path to a head coaching job than waiting until late in the season. Bill, how about Buddy Hield to win the 3-point contest? It's not a great field, is it? I mean, you'd have to think Hield or Lillard would be your top options. Julius Randle, I don't know why they stuck him in here. Tatum, he shoots volume. He doesn't necessarily shoot great from out there. Hero, I'm surprised he's even going into this because he missed a bunch of games heading into the break. Just looking at the rest, Halliburton, I don't really consider him a big 3-point threat. Herder, boy, we're really just picking out guys at random, aren't we? Markkinen could be a dark horse potentially. But Hield leads the league in threes. I mean, can't go wrong. Hard to go against that. He's hit 233s, which puts him, how far ahead is he? He's 34 threes ahead of Anthony Simons, who's now not in the field. Just looking here and grinding through the numbers, Hield shooting 42.6%. Markin is at 41.2. Lillard, when you think of Dame Dollar, 37.2, Tatum 35.7. Randall's at 33.8. I mean, yeah, let's pick a guy that shoots 33% into the field. Why not? Herder's at 39.2. Halliburton's at 39.9, but he's only made 138 threes. Hero 36.9. He's made 135. Yeah, I actually like Hield. No, you haven't missed college basketball, Todd. We talked about a few games already. There's still some more coming up in the Shot of the Dark. What's the odds on Buddy Hield to win, Bill? Do you know off the top of your head? And while Bill's looking that up, Wofford over the Citadel. Wofford, not the team they were when Fletcher McGee was there. They're just 14-13 or 14-14 for Jay McCauley. They beat Mercer the other day by 3. But you look at some of the games that Wofford's lost. They lost in overtime to UNC Greensboro. They lost in double overtime to Western Carolina. They lost by 2 to East Tennessee State. They lost 5 by Western Carolina on the road. They lost by 3 at LSU back in November. They lost by 3 at Vanderbilt. And this is a team that did beat, Texas A&M in College Station. So they have the ability to win games. They beat the Citadel by 20 at home back on January 7th. The Citadel, they're a team that's allergic to defense. They just snapped a 5-game or a 6-game skid. They upset Furman at home the other day. Pissed me off because I had Furman in that game. And Furman just figured that if they took the bus ride to Charleston from over here in Greenville, they could just roll to a win because, hey, after all, it's the Citadel and they suck. Instead, they put up 65 points and lost by 4. Against a team they beat by 25 at the Timmons Arena last month. You got Hield at plus 420. It's a pretty good number. Markkinen could be, like I said, Markkinen's a dark horse. It depends how he starts because he can be a streaky shooter. I've seen games where he'll start off and hit 5 out of 6, and I've seen games where he'll start off and go, 0 for 6. But I mean, take nothing away from what Markkinen has done. He's had a career year this season. He's shooting better than 51% from the floor. And he's really blossomed basically because there's no other go-to threats in the Utah lineup. He's averaging almost 25 points a game. This is, I think, what the Bulls were expecting when they drafted him. but he never got there, probably because of the fact that everybody was throwing everything at him. You'd think that he'd have the same problem now, but he's more developed now where he's more consistent with his shooting. You look at his numbers before. In his 5 seasons before this, the best he shot from the field was 48%, and that was in 2020-21. His other 4 seasons were below 45%. So this 51% plus from the floor is a big jump for Markkanen. I wouldn't count him out. He's familiar with the arena. He's familiar with the rims and everything else. I just think that Hield being the number 1 3-point shooter in the league, it probably gets the upper hand. Jericho Sims winning the dunk contest. The problem with the dunk contest is it's all subjective, I haven't even paid a ton of attention to the dunk contest. Kenyon Martin, Mac McClung, Trey Murphy, and Sims. I like Kmart. I didn't even realize McClung was actually bouncing around because you hadn't heard much about him after he left Georgetown to go to Texas Tech and everything. Well, no wonder why he's played 2 games. That explains why I didn't realize he was playing. How does a guy play 2 games and none of them this season and still get into the dunk contest? That's got to be the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, this guy hasn't played in the NBA, but we'll put him in the dunk contest. Well, yeah, how does he even play in the Rising Stars if he has no games? What are we doing? We're just bringing guys up from the G League to play in these things. And the part of Rising Stars is you're supposed to actually do something in the NBA. Otherwise, I thought the G League had their own All-Star game. And speaking of the dunk contest, CBS Sports had an article. The slam dunk contest can't attract stars anymore, so why not make it a team event? That would be interesting. Because, then you could have, whatever conference or however they're going to do it. Or you could just have multiple players for NBA teams to do the dunk contest. I think that would be interesting. Then you could have, if you had the Lakers dunk, you could have Davis dunk, you could have LeBron dunk, you could have D'Angelo Russell dunk, and, pick a 4th guy. I think that would be more entertaining than just picking out random guys that haven't done anything. But I think it'll be interesting. Yeah, but that's the thing. That just shows you that the NBA is desperate to try and find somebody, and that's why McClung got pulled into this, because of the fact that he has a higher following than all these other guys. Personally, if it's the NBA Slam Dunk Challenge or whatever, because it's the NBA All-Star Weekend, that's what it should be. It should be NBA players, not guys that are playing down in the G League. The G League can have their own damn dunk contest. Gone are the days when you saw Dominique Wilkins and all those guys in the dunk contests or in half the skills competitions. Yeah, a contest like that would be great. Morant and Gordon and Levine and Zion. The problem is you'd have to have Zion wrapped in bubble wrap until the dunk contest, because he seems to always get hurt. But yeah, something like that would be great. Obi Toppin's a good dunker. But gone are the days when you had all the stars actually take part in these things. Larry Bird used to be in the 3-point contest, and it was more entertaining because fans were like, "Oh, look, the guy that we actually know is taking part in these things." And, it balanced out having guys like Craig Hodges, who all he did was shoot threes. That's the problem that I have with all these skill competitions now is you're not getting the same talent. You're getting a bunch of guys that are, hey, do you want to be part of All-Star? It's kind of like the Pro Bowl. I mean, come on, look at the Pro Bowl. Tyler Huntley made the Pro Bowl this year. Sure, he was the 8th or 9th quarterback in the AFC to get selected, but he still made the friggin' Pro Bowl after throwing 2 touchdowns. That's 2 more than me. And I haven't played in, a long time. Morning, AJs. So with that said, we will go to Shot in the Dark, and you're to blame. Seton Hall, +10 over UConn. Remember back in December when everybody was talking about how great UConn was? Because they were, number 1 in the country for about 10 minutes. They were 14-0 going into New Year's Eve, and then Xavier beat them. Well, since Xavier beat them, UConn's gone 5-7. And 3 of their wins are over DePaul, Georgetown, and Butler. Nobody's impressed when your wins are against DePaul, Georgetown, and Butler. I get the games at the Storrs Pavilion. I get the Seton Hall's inconsistent. But I also look at Seton Hall, and after being 8-8, they've won 8 of their last 11. And their losses are to Marquette, Creighton, and Villanova. Losing to Marquette, I get. Losing to Creighton, I get. Villanova, they lost by 4 on the road. Not going to complain too much about that. Seton Hall's got a good defensive team. They've got good defensive metrics. 16th in defensive efficiency, 29th in effective field goal percentage defense, 49th in turnover percentage. They defend the 3 well. They force turnovers. They get steals. They block shots. They beat Connecticut by 1 in the first meeting in Seton Hall. I think UConn probably wins the game. Do I think UConn wins the game by double digits? No. I get UConn beat Marquette by double digits a couple weeks ago. Don't care. Marquette's a team, under Shaka Smart that likes to run. And they shoot the ball well. They like to play high-scoring games. Seton Hall is not that way. Seton Hall is a team that likes to play rock fights. You look at that first meeting, Seton Hall held Connecticut to 13 of 33 from 2-point range, 9 of 23 from 3. And they won the game despite going 4 of 21 from 3 and missing 8 free throws. I think Odakale and Casey Nadefo and Kadari Richmond, Tyree Samuel, those guys, they keep the game close. I'll take the 10. And sure, they could end up getting blown right out of the water, but you never know. I'm taking Seton Hall with the points. Morning, Ular. Good to see you. How about those Arizona Cactus? They're playing the Kings tonight. On be a real barn burner. Jonathan Quick will probably start. Carol Vejmelka, by the way, starting for the Cactus. That already been confirmed by Andre Torigny. So watch out for that. The Syracuse Orange over Duke. Hey, remember when Duke could score baskets? I swear Duke is allergic to scoring this season. You look at their numbers, they're good on the offensive glass. You know why? Because they miss a lot of shots. 234th in effective field goal percentage, 235th in turnover percentage, 258th in three-point shooting. They don't have any scoring options. They've got 2 guys averaging in double figures. One is Filipowski, who's a freshman. The other is Jeremy Roach. What happened to Duke having 37 guys that could come off the bench and score 15 or 20 points? They struggled to get by Notre Dame the other day. They won 68-64. They scored 63 against North Carolina 2 weeks ago. They scored 59 against Miami in a blowout loss. They scored 62 against Virginia in overtime. So they haven't broken the 70-point mark in any of their last 4 games. And before that, they scored 75 against Wake. But you're just looking here, and this Duke team doesn't intimidate anybody. Now, don't get me wrong, Syracuse has their own problems. But they've won 3 in a row. They beat Boston College on the road. They beat Florida State on the road. They beat NC State, a ranked team, at home the other day by 3. Jim Boeheim finds his team in the same place where they've been for the last 6 or 7 years as we get into mid-February, on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. But Syracuse, second in the league, or in the nation, I should say, in block percentage. 16.1% of opposing shots get blocked. Jesse Edwards has been a force in the low block. He's averaging almost 3 blocks a game. Joseph Girard has played well. Judah Mintz is an excellent point guard, had 20 points and 9 assists against NC State the other day. Syracuse's problem is the same problem they have every year, and that's that they don't have a ton of guys that provide depth. You know, Girard plays about 34 minutes a game. Mintz plays about 32 or 33. Edwards plays better than 30. And then their other 2 starters play about 20 minutes a game. They've got a couple other guys that play maybe 15 or 16 minutes. And that's it. If Syracuse avoids foul trouble, they can hang in this game and they can steal it. Because, let's face it, this is not a Duke team that blows anybody out. And if you don't do that, you have problems. Euler asking, does Bucknell cover? Bucknell up there in the Patriot League, taking on Boston U. Let me see what the line is. Where's all my tabs? There we go. Boston U. Take a quick look here. All right, line is now between 3.5 and 4.5, depending on the book. Bucknell in the first meeting lost by 8 at home. They're coming off a rout of American. I think what you're going to have to worry about is will Bucknell continue to turn the ball over, because they're 321st in turnover percentage. Boston U's not great either. They're coming off back-to-back losses to Lafayette and Holy Cross. They've dropped 5 out of 7. Four and a half is kind of fuzzy. I mean, it depends on what Bucknell can do. If they don't turn the ball over, they'll cover the line fairly easily. The problem is, can you trust them not to turn it over? You look at the first meeting between those teams, and Bucknell, let's see. Bucknell turned the ball over 11 times in that one, but they let Boston U hit 14 of 30 from 2 and 10 of 25 from 3, while they were 6 of 24. It's going to be close. And Bucknell did lead by 13 in the first half of that game before letting it slip away. They could cover. I don't know if I trust them enough to play with that kind of game with it being such a small line. Captain Bry says he not one of his top picks, but he likes Syracuse over Duke also. Yeah, this is a Duke team that's just not the same as they've been in recent years. The Flyers over the Canucks. We talked about this a little bit earlier. 2 teams that can't keep the puck out of their own net. Vancouver, a train wreck, mixed with a dumpster fire, mixed with Chernobyl, sprinkle in a toxic train derailment, and you're all set. Vancouver 10-15-1 at home on the season. The Flyers actually have a winning road record. It's only 11-10-7, but that's still better than a losing home record. I think Vancouver is going in the wrong direction. You look in their last 4 games, they've given up 22 goals. That's not a good number. The Canucks are just 1-5. Well, 1-4-1 in their last 6. In that stretch, 31 goals allowed in 6 games. That's not going to get it done. The Flyers should take advantage. Carter Hart going against, I believe it's going to be Colin Delia for Vancouver, and no one's impressed with him. Louisiana Tech over Charlotte. It's a pick 'em. My personal favorite. Louisiana Tech, they've lost 3 straight, but Charlotte, not a good basketball team. The 49ers won the first meeting by 2 at home. This one's in Ruston. And Charlotte's not a great defensive team. It's going to be a very slow-paced game. If Charlotte has anything to do with it, they have the second slowest adjusted tempo in the nation at 60.2%. The problem with that is if you don't make shots, it makes it very tough to try and come back. And you can see that happen just by looking at some of Charlotte's losses. Lost by 2 to UTEP, lost by 4 to Middle Tennessee, lost by 2 to Rice, lost by 3 to FIU because they couldn't get enough possessions. But I think Louisiana Tech avenges the first loss and gets back in the win column here. We've got Baylor over Kansas. I'm taking the points. Kansas, don't get me wrong. Kansas, great basketball team, trying to defend their title from a year ago. They lost by 6 at Baylor. They might win by 4. But, hey, if they win by 4, it works for me because I took Baylor plus 5, right? Baylor's won 4 straight. They've won 10 of 11. Their one loss was a 5-point defeat to Texas in Austin back on January 30th. Baylor, number 1 in the nation in offensive efficiency. I think they can hang close enough. If they can't steal the game outright. But let's face it, because that Big 12, it's a conference where anybody can beat anybody because it's such a tough conference. You got Kansas, then you got Kansas State, you got Texas, Oklahoma State, Iowa, TCU, West Virginia. All those teams ranked in the top 25 according to the KenPom rankings. And so is Baylor. Baylor coming in 10th in that category. They're 9th overall. Brian saying the Canucks going in the wrong direction. Yeah, firing Bruce Boudreau didn't help things. Rick Tocchet has not turned things around. So I don't know what they were thinking there. UNC Wilmington against Delaware. Chikayo Siddle's done a nice job with Wilmington. Granted, you wouldn't think so when you watched them play Charleston last week and got beat by 32. But they bounced back. They beat Northeastern by 12. They beat Drexel in double overtime by 1 on Thursday night. They're 21-7. They're 11-4 in the CAA. Delaware. They're Delaware. The Blue Hens coming off a 23-point loss at Towson. They've lost 4 of 5, including a loss to Monmouth. Martin Inglesby's team kind of crumbling as the season's worn on. They were 8-4. Since then, they've gone 5-11. Jameer Nelson trying to carry that team, and it doesn't really work when your lineup, the tallest guy that you play on a regular basis, is 6'7", and that's Jair Davis. It makes Amari Kelly look like a giant at 6'9". And that's been the problem for Delaware. Is you look at some of these other teams in the conference. Charleston's got a guy, Ante Brosvik is 6'10". And it's just going to be tough it's going to be tough sledding for Delaware. I just think that, especially getting a point or whatever there. Yeah, the Big 12, best conference in the NBA. SEC is a close second. Yeah, the ACC is watered down. The Pac-12 has got UCLA, Arizona. That's about it. And the Big Ten, they just keep rotating teams on who's going to win and who's going to lose. Florida State over Boston College. I know everybody's like, well, Florida State sucks. They just lost by 40 at Clemson. Yeah, but have you seen Boston College? Boston College shows up when the game is against teams like Notre Dame or Louisville. Or they beat Clemson at home a couple weeks ago. But they're coming off a 19-point loss at Pitt. They lost by 30 to NC State. I think it'll be close, but I think Florida State can pull it out. Boston College is not a good shooting team, and they don't defend all that well either, which makes it difficult to win. Rangers over the Flames. We were just talking about Vancouver going the wrong direction. Have you met the Calgary Flames? You look at Calgary's recent stretch of play, and the only reason they're favored is because they're at home and because the Rangers are playing the second game of a back-to-back situation here, because they lost to Detroit. They lost to Ottawa in a game where they were up 3-1 in the third period. They lost to Detroit. They lost to the Rangers in overtime in their first game coming out of the All-Star break. Their one win was against Buffalo when they won 7-2 last week, in a game they trailed 2-0 after the first period. Going back further, they also got beat 5-1 by the Blackhawks. I'll take my chances with the Rangers and Yaroslav Halak at plus money than I would trusting Jacob Markstrom and the Flames right now. By the way, the Rangers 17-5-4 on the road. The Flames 14-10-2 at home. Marlo, good to see you. Are you excited about Andrew McCutchen coming back to Pittsburgh? That's today's question of the day. Brought to you by Miller Lite. It's everything you want a beer to be, and less. The Lightning over Vegas. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't really like either one of these teams. Vegas has been another team that's really good on the road, but they're mediocre at home, 16-13. Tampa Bay, don't really like them, but they've got Vasilevsky, and we've seen him. We saw him against Colorado steal 2 points for Tampa Bay because he made 43 saves, I think it was. He's rested because, he didn't play against Arizona in that game where Tampa Bay had a 47-26 shot advantage and couldn't score and lost 1-0 in a shootout. And Aiden Hill, while he's been good, he's still just a backup goaltender to me. I know he's won 3 starts in a row. And they've won his last 4 appearances because he came in to play part of that game against the Wild on February 9th after Logan Thompson got hurt. But this is a guy who had, 8, 10, 19. He had 29 career wins going into this season. He's got 13. You're putting him against Vasilevsky. I'll take Vasilevsky. And finally, the Devils over the Penguins. The Devils let me down the other day when they lost to St. Louis. The Penguins lost yesterday. And again, it made me happy because I took the Islanders. I think New Jersey can get it done. They're rested. They've had decent success with Pittsburgh. And I see that's another line that's shifted the other way towards New Jersey. That wasn't there last night. It's now anywhere between minus 115 and minus 125. Which is always disappointing when you're trying to look at it from that perspective. The Devils have won 3 straight in this series. 6-1, 4-2. They won 4-2 in the first meeting this season in Pittsburgh on December 30th, won 2-1 in overtime at home on January 22nd. Vitek Vanacek slated to go for New Jersey against Tristan Jerry. I'll take the rested team in New Jersey, who are 24-3 on the road this season, to steal one there. Big numbers there. If you take the money lines, 315, 626.04 on Hundo. If you take the puck line / run line / point spread, 504, 660, 18. So big numbers to go around. Good luck to you as well, Cap. We hope that you all have a great day, have a great weekend. Enjoy the XFL, enjoy college basketball. Don't forget the Daytona 500 coming to you tomorrow. Also, don't forget, if you're a wrestling fan, the Elimination Chamber tonight on Peacock, 8 p.m. Eastern. Enjoy hockey. Enjoy whatever it is that you do. Be safe out there. Have a great day. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Use the promo code on the bottom of the screen. Save yourself some money on the premiums. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Have a good week, and we will see you here next Saturday. Same bat time, same bat channel. For Winners and Whiners, and for Just Parlays, I'm Chris King. So long, everybody.